I never told you. I never told you how I got fired, huh? Teaching. The way I got the job was well, part of it was through Dory, and then part of it was through my cousin, because they both Dory still was still working at Boys and Girls Club at the time, and my cousin used to work there, and like he put in a good word for me. But when I went, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm about to be, at the actual Boys and Girls Club, like the club, like on fucking, I forget what street it is. Yeah, on the east side. And so I get there, I do the application, nail the interview. And he's like, all right, bro. He's like, all right, bro. You want to go to Emerson? And I'm like, nigga, Emerson? Yeah, like literally the worst fucking school he could have gave me. Like, yeah, bro, I want to go to. I'm like, huh? And then he was like, yeah, like you don't teach here at the club. We send you off to campuses who need help. And I'm like, nigga, this is news to me, but I just got the job. I ain't about to turn it down. So I'm like, all right, nigga. So I get the fucking Emerson, nigga. I'm damn near blending in with the kids. This is like before I had the full beard and shit. Like, I'm getting there, like kids walking up to me, like, nigga, who are you? Nigga, you fresh meat? Like I swear, bro. Like, nigga, Emerson was the most hood experience. I'm telling you, bro. Fighting was a motherfucking like class there. Like, nigga, you had PE, art, then you fought a nigga, then you went to lunch, then you fought another nigga, and then you went to science. Like I swear. Yeah, like literally, bro. Like my nigga, because the crazy part was my cousin worked there too, and that was probably like the one thing that like kept me, through that shit, was like having a dope ass coworker that was also family. But he used to work. I did just after school. He did after school, and he did yard duty like during the day. And every time I would get there after school, he would be like, bro, you missed it. He was like, there was a riot, like there was a fight here and a fight. And even like my old vice principal, he used to tell me, he says, Emerson has fucking prison mentality. He says, you wanna know why? He says, because they will start a fight in front of you, like in front of the cafeteria, and then they'll have another fight going on like by the bathrooms. And while teachers are going to break both of those up, they don't know that both of those fights are just setups where they're really just slap boxing. Behind a trailer is another fight where niggas is really going at it and breaking each other's necks. That's fucking prison mentality, bro. In a junior fucking high, bro. And he's like, bro, like shit like that happens at Emerson's. Like, so I did a year there, and that shit was like, it was bad at first. Like, them kids used to try me, but the thing I fucked with middle school is like teenagers, they're rebellious at first, but once they realize they can't break you, like they're cool. But the thing with like elementary kids, and the reason why I never wanted to work with elementary kids, is because everything goes in one ear and out the other. Like, you constantly have to tell them to sit down, you constantly have to tell them to be quiet. It's like little small kid shit. And so I did a year in Emerson, and at the end I'm thinking like, all right, cool, like the next year kids gonna be familiar with me, like niggas gonna know who I am and shit. Nigga, I show up for the fucking, like, cause with Boys and Girls Club, they do like a mandatory meeting before the school year starts. So I show up to that, and my name ain't on the Emerson list. I'm like, nigga, what the fuck going on? They're like, oh yeah, you're going to Stella Hills. And Stella Hills is that school that's like, where the fucking, the Willows is at? The one right across the street from the Willows. Like, literally, I'm like, nigga, and I know, like, that's literally the pre-Emerson. All the kids that go to Emerson, they come from fucking Stella Hills. So I'm like, not only do you want me to go to a school that's just as bad, not worse than Emerson, but they're younger. So I was just like, bro, like the whole first like 2 months I was there, like in my mind I'm thinking like, bro, I'm not gonna stay here. Like, I'm gonna try everything in my power to get transferred back to Emerson. But I kept going and talking back to like my old supervisor, and she was like, nah. She's like, you'll do better over there because there's room for you to grow and shit, and like the supervisor there is cool. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. I took her word for it. I just stuck it out. Like the first year, for most of it, I just did after school, but I eventually ended up doing like, the yard duty during the day, like how my cousin used to do. And once I started doing that, that's when shit became hell. Cause like after school was already like, you know, a war of its own. But to deal with the motherfuckers like during the day and that leads in the after school, because you gotta keep in mind, nigga, school starts at fucking, you know, 7 in the morning, and we don't get out till 6. So that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, yeah, and that's like fucking, so that's like 12 hours that I'm dealing with Bebe kids for 12 hours, bro. And I like, bro, and I was just doing it because like, and then for one, like, part of it was kind of like fun, like having those crazy ass like stories to tell and just like going through that shit, but at the same time, like, it was like stressful as fuck, because like I said, like, we were always understaffed. We never had like substitutes, so like every day, like, you would plan a lesson for like 5th graders, but then, you know, 5th graders know how to multiply and divide. But let's say, you know, the 1st grade teacher doesn't show up and there's no substitute. So now we have to split up 1st grade and send like 5 1st graders to each grade. But now your lesson, you know, is multiplication and division. 1st graders can't fucking do multiplication, so now they feel left out. So now everything you're doing, 1st graders just fucking crying. Like, and it's like shit, it's like small shit you gotta deal with that like every day. Like every day I will come in with a plan, like, all right, my day's gonna go like this, but then like somebody don't show up, so now I gotta do their job. Like, and the way it went, like during the day I would mainly do this like yard duty, like be out like, you know, during recess and shit, but we had a bitch ass like campus supervisor, like he would just make us do unnecessary shit. Like, and I would always tell this like niggas, he's one of those niggas that's, he's not racist, but he has like strong stereotypes and he plays favorites. Like, you can tell like he favors like Latinas and Latinos, and he'll always take their side before blacks, but he doesn't necessarily have anything against black people. He just play, you know, I forgot, Will Smith described it. He says everybody has what is the word I'm looking for? I can't fucking think of it right now. But he's like, everybody has like shit like they're attracted to and shit they're not attracted to, but like, I can't think of the fucking word. I wish I could. But basically that's just how he is. And like, he would always, whenever people would bring up that he was racist, his first example would be like, oh, I got black people in my family, or black, and I'm like, nigga, like, that don't fucking matter, bro. Like, that don't mean shit. Like, so, and the reason, like, cause all the girls, like the fucking, like the Mexican girls, they'll be around like chit chatting. He won't say shit to them, but like me and my homie Josh, my coworker, we were 2 black dudes. And the second we would get together and start talking, he would call us on the radio, hey, I need one of y'all to go out to the front to like, I heard there was a dog out front. Nigga, ain't no fucking dog out front. You just trying to separate us and get one of us to go fucking watch a fucking parking lot at an elementary school. Like, I get it, the hood is kind of ghetto, like, but nigga, like, stop just making us do mean, like, put us in the office so we can do some shit. Like, but they'll be like, oh, like, I just want you to go stare at an empty parking lot. Like, nigga, the fuck? Like, I get I'm getting paid to do this shit, but nigga, you can find something more meaningful for me to do than this bullshit, bro. And like, it was like shit like that why I never fucked with him. But what changed the game for me, I think on my 2nd year, like, nigga, the school was so bad. Like, the first principal we had was like a blonde female that didn't know how to communicate with those hood ass kids, like, at all, bro. So like halfway through the year, the school district ended up finding out how bad things were. So they're like, all right, we're gonna hire a vice principal and a 2nd campus supervisor. And the vice principal was a nigga named Mr. Gridiron, and this nigga was like black, fucking like a black grandpa, like that knows like how to deal with hood ass kids. So when he got there, he just straightened everybody out. Not even the kids, the teachers too, because the teachers were like, they didn't know how to deal with the kids, and he would like put their ass in check. Like, he would be like, nah, this how you teach the kid, this how you do they shit. They would just look at him like, okay, like you literally just said something like that, you know, I've known, but I just didn't know how to fucking do, like. But like, that nigga would always lace me up, like, cause basically these niggas ended up getting a game room for these kids, basically like as an incentive, like, oh, like if you do good, a teacher will give you a pass and you go to the game room for lunch where they have like an Xbox and a Nintendo and board games and shit. So what Mr. Gridiron did, he looked out. He's like, all right, well, since you do regular day and after school, he's like, I'm gonna give you the position of, you know, being in the game room, like, and watching, making sure nothing gets broke. Basically meaning I could just be in there chilling and just like, you know, not be out on the yard. You know, he basically, you know, threw me a bone. And that went for like a year and a half, and that shit was cool. Like, you know, just being there, fucking feet on the desk and shit. And we also had another, he was a counselor, fucking Mr. Henderson. That nigga was hilarious because all he did was go to school to fucking like spit at the fucking teachers. So like every time he just ended like telling me like, yeah, like Miss Gamez look bad as fuck, like Miss. I'm just like, that's just like every day, bro. It was just like hilarious, like fucking hilarious. So I just being there cooling with him. And we have some other lady that did the cafeteria, but she used to always say like, bro, like the cafeteria is like the worst shit ever. So the next year she ended up quitting and she didn't come back. So these motherfuckers screwed me over. They're like, all right, well, we gonna give you the cafeteria job since you've already been here for 3 years and you're the most experienced. And I'm like, no, nigga, like, and keep in mind, like, this is on my 3rd year. No, this is my 4th year, but at the end of my 3rd year, a nigga named Mr. David, he's another like counselor. He came to me, he was like, hey, like, since you've been here a long time, the next year I got this class coming up called Project Best. And what that is, it's like, it's a class that gives you the opportunity. It's nothing but black kids, mainly black males, but some females. But he's like, it's mainly about teaching them etiquette, like how to be proper, like, you know, teaching them about finances. And I'm like, that shit sound cool, like, because I'm over here normally teaching, you know, like math, fucking science, and like, nigga, I want to teach some shit like that, teach niggas how to be men and women and shit. So when he told me that, I was like, all right, cool. But then when my 4th year got there, not only did they give me the cafeteria job for the regular day, but they fucking hired somebody else to teach that class. So I'm like, nigga, what the fuck? Like, this nigga like told me that was gonna be me. And I go and talk to Miss Khan, which was my supervisor, and she was mad too. She was like, yeah, like evidently like they didn't want to give you the position. I'm like, why not? She's like, I don't fucking know. And they hired like some pregnant lady that like didn't have any patience for kids. And of course she's moody because she's pregnant. So she did the class for like maybe a month and then she quit. She was like, yeah, this is too much for me and she's stressful. So I'm thinking, all right, cool. Like I'm in there. She quit. They go give the position to me. They fucking hired somebody else again. And I was like, all right, at this moment, like, nigga, I was like, all right, bro, I've been here for like 3 years. These niggas have denied me my position twice, which comes with a pay raise. Not only that, like, I'm covering for like hella niggas' job, because like I say, like, I'm always fucking watching 1st graders, 2nd graders. I'm the only fucking activity leader that knows how to control the whole fucking, like, kids. Like, nobody, every time anything goes wrong, niggas call me on the radio to come play Captain fucking Save-A-Ho or some bullshit. So I'm like, bro, I've been working here for like 4 years. I'm over this shit. And so, and even the second lady, she like sticks it out for 2 months, but then she ends up quitting. And what happens is I end up having to teach that class because nobody else is there to fucking teach it, but I still don't have the position. So I'm basically teaching that class without the pay raise, without the title. And yeah, I'm basically just doing it. I'm like, bro, this fucking sucks. And not, on top of that, this class is also bad as fuck too. And I feel like I'm not even like getting my point across. Like I'm not even teaching them like proper etiquette and really, you know, I'm mainly just teaching them fucking basic ass shit. Like sit down, stop talking and shit. And so like at this point, bro, I'm checked out. Like for like my last like 2 or 3 months, I was literally doing shit, like not doing shit purposely to get me fired, but doing shit like not giving a fuck and like being surprised that like niggas was not really getting on me about it. But like, and then like, I think the lady who works in the office, she caught on to it. Cause like I was even like letting the kids run. I was letting kids get away with shit. Not even like, I was just like basically just showing up to work, but I wasn't doing my job. I was like, fuck it, I'm just here to, you know, get a check. And so one day I got there, she pulled me aside. She was like, hey, like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, what you mean? She was like, I noticed how you've been like acting like you ain't yourself. And I was like, nigga, I'm like, you see the shit I gotta deal with? And she's like, I deal with the same shit too. She's like, I deal with parents and shit, but she was like, you know, at the end of the day, like, if you don't want to do the job, like, let niggas know, like. And like she kept it $150 with me, but I fucked with her because she was the only one who really did that. Like everybody else, like, kind of just like didn't really give a fuck about me. And even though I heard her, I didn't really listen to her. But nigga, like, I think like a week after that, See, I told you like the vice principal, Mr. Gridiron, I had a cold ass relationship with that nigga. He was cool. Like I always called this nigga boss and everything. We were having a meeting with my campus supervisor that I can't fucking stand. And in the middle of that meeting, this nigga, Mr. Gridiron, like walked out. And he was like, hey, G, come here. Like he pulled me away from the meeting to go talk to him. So I'm like, all right. I looked at Sotel, like, can I go? He's like, yeah, go ahead. And this like, you know a nigga is about to drop some knowledge on you when he's looking away, like at the fucking horizon, and he's not looking at you as he's talking to you, bro. This nigga hit me with like that moment. Like this nigga, like I walked off, I was like, hey, what's good? He was like, let me ask you something, bro. He's like, how many hours you work here? I counted it up. I was like, I work like 12. He says, you're here 12 hours a day. I was like, yeah. He says, nigga, you know you fucking killing yourself? And I was like, what you mean? He was like, nigga, you killing yourself. He says, bro, I'm here 9 hours a day, and I feel like I'm at the point where I just can't fucking take it. He's like, nigga, he's like, how much money you make? And I told him, he's like, is it good money? And I was like, but do you enjoy it? He's like, do you enjoy spending it? And do you enjoy? And I was like, keep it real, no. I was like, cause of one, I'm too stressed out, and I just like, by the time I go home, I'm just worn the fuck out. And he's like, you know why? He's like, I can see that shit. He basically hit me with the same shit the other girl, but he kept it $150. And he was like, here's what I want you to do. He says, the second they get done with their little chit chat, you go and you call Sotelo into his office and you sit him down and you tell him you want 2 hours off. You want a 1 hour break during this time, you want another hour break during this time. He says, do you think you can take that pay cut? And I was like, hell yeah. And he was like, all right. He was like, do that. And I was like, and I did that, nigga, like, for like the next like 3 months, nigga, I be in the fucking lounge on the couch, sleep. And I'm telling you, like, nigga, that shit used to like, I was like, fuck, I like, and even though I was making like a little bit less money, that shit fucking worked. Like, I was way less stressed out. But even then, like, I was still kind of doing fuck shit, like, in after school, like, you know, like, playing fucking, like, music I shouldn't be playing, like, that had, like, not cussing, but just shit that, like, that, you know, fucking, even, like, one time I was playing, like, at the baseball game and shit, like, on a loud fucking speaker, and they're like, yeah, G, you gotta change that shit, like, and then, what all led up to me getting fired was basically me bringing personal life shit into work. Cause this was during a year like my uncle just passed away, my grandma just passed away, one of my homies had committed suicide, and I was trying to stop another one of my homies from doing it because he was so depressed because of it. So like all that shit was going on. And I was having to go to work and act like that shit just wasn't fucking bothering me, which is like next to fucking impossible. And there, I remember like, I think on the day I went to my grandma's funeral, I didn't take the day off. I went to the funeral, and then after, when the funeral was over, no, not my grandma's, my uncle's. And then when the funeral was over, I went back to work. And when I went back to work after the funeral, I just got straight disrespected by the kids. I ended up like actually like crying it like in front of the kids, cause like how bad, like cause all the shit. And then when I went to my grandma's funeral, I was like, nah, fuck that. Like I'm taking the whole day off. I'm not about to like go to the funeral and then go to work and get disrespected by kids. And so all that shit was happening. And then one day I was like, you know what, bro? I'm about to go to work. I'm about to turn my brain off. Like today we supposed to be doing science. I don't give a fuck. We playing PE. We playing dodgeball. That's how much I don't give a fuck. So after school gets there, I'm going to grab the dodgeballs, and this new nigga we got working there, he sees me, he sees what I'm doing, and he gets the fucking monkey see, monkey do type shit. He's like, oh, you're playing dodgeball with your class? And I'm like, yeah, nigga, so what? He's like, oh, well, you think you be down to do like a versus again? I'm like, no, nigga, because that's gonna cause a fight, that's gonna cause an argument, and I'm specifically doing this shit to have a relaxed day. So I'm like, nigga, no. And so what ends up happening, like we do homework, and I'm getting ready to take him out to play dodgeball, and right as I'm getting ready to take him out, he takes his class out there. So I'm like, no, nigga, like I'ma just cool it. We go chilling here for like, you know, 20-30 minutes till they get done. But then 20-30 minutes go by, my kids are like, fuck, can we go outside? Can we go outside? So I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. We go outside and like run a lap. And hopefully by the time, you know, we run a lap, they done. But we go out there, they run a lap. And then while they're running, like his class is still out there. They come to me, Mr. G, we want to play your class, but we want to play. So I'm like, you know what, bro? At this point, I don't give a fuck, bro. If that's what y'all want to do, let's do it. And lo and behold, halfway through the shit, they end up arguing. They end up, you know, fighting and shit. I'll call the game, bro. I'm like, all right, you know what? At this point, I'm so checked out. I start talking like my normal self. Like, I'm not even talking professional. Like, I like how I talk to you. I'm just like, yeah. I'm like, you know what, bro? I'm like, y'all get y'all stuff. It's time to go. Like, y'all at the point, like, I'm about to go find a new job, bro, because y'all just stressing me out. Like, and the kids are hearing me sitting there looking at me like, Mr. G, like, are we that bad? And I'm just like, bro, I'm like, y'all are just driving me crazy. I'm not even trying to talk to y'all right now. I'm not even trying to look at y'all right now, like, because y'all just a hot mess. And they're like, you know, heads down. And while I'm putting all the stuff in the ballroom, I literally turn around and like, one of my students has like another girl by like the back of her hair. They're like fighting, bro. And I'm just like, nigga, what the fuck is going on? Like, I split them up, send like one to the office, and I'm like, all right, you know what? We about to spend the last 20 minutes just sitting here. And as I'm walking toward the benches, this little fucking kid has the nerve to say, hey, Mr. G, are you mad? Mr. G, are you mad? And bro, look, no, in the most calm way, in the most, like, I'm gonna say it exactly how I said it. I said, boy, get in line if I hurt you. I ain't got time for you. Like, I didn't yell it at him. I didn't scream. But all I said, I was like, boy, get in line, boy, I ain't got time. But I said, boy, get in line if I hurt you. I ain't got time for you. And that's literally like a reactionary thing, because that's what my mom used to always say to me, like, boy, get over here if I hurt you. Or just like, and keep in mind, I worked for these kids for 4 years. I have a relationship to the point where they are kind of like my kids. And we've seen how much their parents are pieces of shit. Not that all their parents are a piece of shit, but it got to a point where we kind of had to be the parent. So a part of me kind of felt like, you know, even though at the end of the day, I know it's not my kid and I would never, you know, fucking hurt a kid because I was raised better than that. It's just a phrase. You know, I said it, and it wasn't the fact that he thought that, it was the fact that he was embarrassed, because the second I said it, everybody heard it and everybody kind of like, ooh, like Mr. G said he gonna hurt you, and he got embarrassed. So what he did, he put his head down and he went home, and he went home in a bad mood. And when his mom asked what was wrong with him, that's what he said. He said, Mr. G said he was gonna hurt me. And his mom heard that and pressed the fucking issue like crazy. So, but at that moment, I'm not knowing. So the next day, I go back to school, not even really thinking about it, but on my lunch break, I go to get Taco Bell down the street, and one of the girls' parents works there. And as I'm ordering the food, she kind of like, you know, pulls me to the side. She was like, hey, Mr. G, did you tell the kid you were gonna hurt him yesterday? And I was like, whoa, where the fuck you hear that from? And she was like, yeah, she was like, my daughter Gracie came on. She was like, Mom, Mr. G said he was gonna hurt a kid, but she found it funny. And she was like, I find it hilarious because, for one, I know how bad those kids are. And I know how much you deal with. She's like, I know you wouldn't hurt a kid, but she's like, I just think that's funny how kids kind of like think that you were serious. And I was like, yeah. And then when the second I got back to campus, my supervisor, she called me in. She was like, hey, Mr. G. She said the same thing. Did you say you were gonna hurt a kid? And I was like, fuck, you heard it too? And I was like, in my head, I started thinking, I was like, damn, like, how did I say it? Like, because I know at the end of the day, I didn't mean any harm, but I started playing. I'm like, fuck, like, did I fuck up? Like, did I really fuck up? So I felt bad. So I started to look for the kid to like apologize to him or be like, hey, like I didn't, but he wasn't there because I guess his mom pulled him out. So like the whole like next 2 days, like I'm kind of like stressing, like fuck, like, and I'm waiting to see him, you know, to kind of, you know, clear things up, but he's not coming to school. So what happens is like 2 days later, I end up having to stay like an hour after school because we had a parent-teacher conference with 2 badass kids we're trying to kick out of after-school program. So like I had to sit there and like babysit 2 kids for overtime. And like I'm like, bro, I'm so over this shit, I'm ready to go home. And after the parent-teacher conference, we're all ready to go. And guess who fucking walks into the office? The fucking mom. Like, and she walks in, she just got off of work. And she starts talking to the supervisor, and she's like, oh, why are you here? She's like, oh, I think you know why I'm here. She's like, I'm here to kind of figure out what's going on, you know. And Miss Khan looks at me, and theoretically, according to Boys and Girls Club, I had every right to tell her or not speak to her. Like I could have said, you know, I have nothing to say to you. You have to, you know, that's between you and her. But seeing that not only have I worked with a kid for 4 years and I've talked to her like plenty of times, me and her have a good relationship, I felt like, you know what, this is something that I can talk to her about and she'll understand it. So she broke it down. She was like, I was like, so what did your son tell you? He was like, oh, well, you know, she played out the whole situation. He came home and he started reading. And I was like, well, what's wrong with that? She's like, well, he never comes home and reads. He usually come home and he'll start, you know, playing and stuff. So I went in there and I asked him what was wrong. And he didn't want to say anything at first, but you know, the more I questioned him about it, he finally admitted and said what happened. And I was like, well, what do you think? And she's like, I came here because I think he's lying. I think he's not telling the truth. And I looked at her, and keep in mind, I'm in a mind state where I'm physically and mentally over this fucking job. So this bitch, not this bitch. She is a concerned mom at the end of the day, and I respect what she did. Because if it was my kid, I probably would have did the same thing. But in my head, I'm thinking like, you know what, like I'm mentally over this, like, and you're a shark that just came in looking for blood, and I'm gonna give it to you because that's just the mood I'm in. And I was like, you know what, ma'am, like your son is not lying. And I did say what I said. And then she was like, what do you mean you said what you said? And I was like, well, I said, he decided to, you know, mouth off when he wasn't supposed to. And I said, Kobe, get in line before I hurt you. And I was like, simple as that. And as I started explaining, I was like, I didn't mean any harm by it. I said, you more than anybody else know what I deal with. And as I'm saying that, tears start rolling down her face. She starts breaking down, crying, like, and the second she started crying, I knew. I was like, I'm fucked. And then she starts screaming like, how could you do that? Like, that's not your son. Like, I understand, like, but it's not your kid. And I'm just like, fuck. Like, and I look at my supervisor, and she's looking at me like, yeah, like, this probably like your last week. And I was like, I walked over to her, and this is probably where I fucked up. But I don't know. I just did it anyway. I was like, ma'am, I said at the end of the day, I said I was going through a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, that doesn't excuse what I said to your son. I do apologize for what I said. I don't mean it. I said, but at the end of the day, I said, whatever you want to do, whatever your decision is, I said, if you want to let it go, then you can let it go. I said, but if you want to, bring this to the district's attention or bring this to Boys and Girls Club attention, I have no problem with that either, because I said at the end of the day, I made a mistake. And I thought me telling her that might be like, okay, like, you know what, I'm pissed off, but I'm gonna go home and think about it. I go home, my coworker Karina, she texts me, she's like, hey, like, you have a Facebook? And I'm like, nah. She's like, and she sent me a screenshot, and she was like, I went to school to investigate this shit, and this motherfucker admitted to it. How dare y'all look at this motherfucker as a teacher? Like, I'm going to BCSD. Fuck, my camera turned. I'm going to BCSD to report this motherfucker. I'm going to Boys and Girls. Basically made a whole like long ass Facebook post. A lot of motherfuckers like liked it and shit, and like was like, and so I'm just like, all right, well, RIP my job. So the next day, I just say, fuck it, I go to work. And like I said, I'm in the cafeteria. But in the morning, we have parent volunteers that show up. So the second I get there, my supervisor, he calls me and he's like, hey, get out the cafeteria ASAP. So I'm like, what's good? He's like, did you see it? And I was like, yeah, I saw it. He's like, all right, here's what I want you to do. He's like, for the whole day, I want you to stay out at the far end of the playground. Like, just stay out there, like, keep your head low, like, make sure the parents don't see you, and if they talk to you, just ignore them, like, and just wait until we get clarified on what the issue is, but until then, just act like nothing's wrong. And I was like, all right. I work half the day, then I get a fucking call from Boys and Girls Club, like, yeah, we heard about the situation and we need you off the campus, like, immediately. And I was like, but I have a job here during the morning. She's like, we don't care. We need you off the campus, like, immediately until we investigate what happened. And I'm like, all right. So I told her, I was like, and when I walked to my, like, supervisor, like, she looked at me like she was gonna, like, get teary-eyed because she knew. She was like, fucking, like, bro, like, the craziest thing happened, like, oh no, like, before this even happened, she said, like, I had to have a meeting with him, but she told me what time I had to go, and I had, like, one more recess, like, before I left, and I was talking to all my coworkers, and they were like, fuck, like, is there anything we can do to, like, you know, like, speak up and say, like, you know, you're a good person? And I was like, nah, like, bro, like, they're gonna let me go, like, regardless of what you say. And then, like 3 of my favorite students came out, and they're all girls, bro. And, like, they didn't know what was going on. And they came up, like, all in a good mood, like, you know, bugging me and shit. And I was like, hey, all 3 of y'all, follow me. Now, I walked them way out to the track, like, where, like, nobody was around us. And I kept it real with him, bro. I was like, hey, I said, I'm gonna keep it real. I said, about 2 days ago, I did something real stupid. And I'm probably gonna lose my job for it. And I said, now if I don't, you know, it is what it is. But I said, I probably am. But I was like, I just want to tell y'all, like, don't be a victim of this neighborhood. Like, I was like, get out of this shit, because they're all 3 smart girls. I was like, remember that there's more to this neighborhood. I was like, don't ever let anybody, like, tell you, like, you ain't gonna be shit. Don't ever, like, basically gave him, like, a whole fucking motive. And, like, as I'm telling them this, like, bro, like, I'm getting, like, fucking, like, teary-eyed and shit. And, like, and I was like, and I told him, and I was like, all right, like, well, y'all go play. I was like, give me a minute to, like, you know, get my shit together. And I saw them, like, walk away, and they didn't even go play. They just went and sat down, like, put their heads down. And for, like, fucking 5 minutes straight, bro, I just sat there and just fucking bawled, like, snot running down my face, tears, like, cause I just knew, I was like, fuck, bro, like, and even though I was, like, riding the wheels till it fell off, I was like, even though I did kind of want to quit, I didn't want to get fired, bro. Like, I didn't want to, like, leave, like, in the middle of the year and, like, just, like, abandon these kids, cause, like, after a while, bro, you get attached to the motherfuckers, like, even the bad ones too. So, like, after that, like, I left and I went and had the meeting, and they're like, all right, like, they was like, give us a week and, like, we'll figure it out. But then, like, after the week, they just called me and like, yeah, we gotta let you go. Okay, I don't want to make this longer, but I did leave out a very important part. The thing that was eating me up inside was knowing that I was about to leave this job, and I never got a chance to apologize to this kid, and he was just gonna think I threatened him. So right before I left, I actually saw him, and before I even got a chance to apologize or say my sentence, he stopped me and he said, Mr. G, I know. And I looked at him like, and we didn't say anything, but we locked eyes for about 10 seconds. And if his facial expression could be described in one word, it was regret. And I think he knew that I didn't mean what I said, and he didn't mean for his mom to escalate it that much, but it was like the situation was beyond our control. But we literally locked eyes for like 10 seconds, and I just said, and then he nodded, and then he walked off, and that was the last time we ever interacted. And I was like, okay, that alleviated a lot of weight, because I thought I was gonna leave and never have that chance, but I got it. But that was that. Back to the story. And then literally, this was, I think, before it was even official, before, like, as the investigation was going on, I'm at home fucking, like, depressed as fuck, like, and my uncle calls me. He's like, hey, like, did you remember, like, that you agreed to recording, like, I guess he has, like, some type of church seminar. He's like, you agreed to, you know, filming it for me. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I forgot I did agree to that. But I'm, like, over at home, like, all depressed and shit. I don't feel like doing it now, but he go pay me and shit. So I'm like, all right, fuck it, I'll go do it. So I go and do it. And then fucking, bro, on the way home, like, okay, right before I go home, it starts sprinkling. So I'm like, all right, let me get home before it starts like really raining and shit. And as I'm going home, I'm texting my brother. And I'm like, hey, nigga, like, you got some pressure? And he like, yeah, nigga, like, and I'm like, and he was at the house, at my house. And I'm like, all right, all right, I'm on my way back right now, like, and I'm speeding because I know he's waiting on me. And you know the exit where you're coming down Panama, the exit to get on the 99 South, right by that graveyard, like right across Popeyes. I literally hit that exit going about maybe like 45 to 50. But like and this is the first time it's rained in a minute, and I turn right. Literally as I'm turning right, I just hear my tires lock and it starts scraping. I'm like, whoa, like, and I try to go left, but my shit's just like locked in place. Next thing you know, I fucking go down the hill, my fucking car flips over like 4 times. Yeah, and I was fucked up and like, so I basically wrecked my car and lost my job like all within 1 week. So I was like, that was I can literally say that was probably my rock bottom, like in my entire life. Like, and when I got the call that I was fired, like I literally like hopped out of bed, like back fucked up, and I like literally like stumbled to my dad and I told him the news and like broke down crying again. And like I was like, fuck, I was just like, I was going through it, bro. I was a hot ass mess. Like, next thing you know, I got hired at Lowe's and got a new car. Then Lowe's fired my ass, and I was like, all right, well, shit, I got a new car, so I'm about to start lifting. And the plan was to just lift temporarily until I got a new job. But shit, lift ended up being cool. So I'm like, nigga, let me just do this shit permanently. Long story short, then I moved in with Snake, and here we are now. But yeah, like, that shit was like,